In Pakistan, what do you think was the biggest win from being part of the TBML STR pilot?
So those conferences really helped in enhancing the capacity of the financial institutions.
One factor is that the data is readily available with the banks. We're not giving more burden for the bank to excavate whatever data. It is already there.
I'm Mahika Ravi Shankar, Assistant Editor at Trade Finance Global.
I am Sumera Baloch, working as an Additional Director at the Financial Monitoring Unit, which is the Financial Intelligence Unit of Pakistan.
I'm Catherine Estrada, Senior Investment Officer at the Private Sector Operations in Asian Development Bank.
Welcome to Trade Finance Talks, your go-to trade, treasury and payments podcast, brought to you by TFG.
Imagine a shipment of goods travelling halfway around the world. On paper, it's a routine transaction. But what if the goods are grossly undervalued, allowing criminals to move millions in illicit funds right under the noses of law enforcement? This is the world of trade-based money laundering, or TBML, a problem so pervasive yet so cleverly disguised that it's been dubbed the perfect crime by some experts. All around the world, countries grapple with the consequences of TBML. The Asian Development Bank's Trade and Supply Chain Finance Program has collaborated with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime and financial intelligence units from 5 Asian countries: Bangladesh, Mongolia, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. Together, they have taken massive strides in bringing TBML to the surface. At the core of this pilot, which was conducted from January 2022 to June 2023, was the introduction of new trade-related data elements into suspicious transaction reports, or STRs. It also brought comprehensive training and fostered collaboration among key stakeholders. The pilot has given a new lease of life to the fight against financial crime. To tell us how, with focus on the pilot's success in Pakistan, I'm sitting down today with 2 key players in this groundbreaking initiative: Catherine Estrada from the Asian Development Bank and Sumera Baloch from Pakistan's Financial Monitoring Unit. Sumera, Catherine, welcome to Trade Finance Talks. Let's start with a bit of background, an elevator pitch, as it were, for both of you. Who are you, where are you from, and what do you do? Catherine, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mahika, for this opportunity. Again, I'm Catherine. I work for the Asian Development Bank. We are based here in Manila, Philippines. Basically, I support the Trade and Supply Chain Finance Program by conducting integrity due diligence on all the 300 plus banks that we work with. And we operate in 22 developing markets in Asia and the Pacific. What I do is more like an AML CFT compliance work, or AML CFT due diligence for the banks, so that we ensure that the trade transactions we support are legitimate transactions. And I also am the lead for AML CFT initiatives, including this one on trade-based money laundering.
So right in the middle of it all, by the sounds of it. Sumera?
My name is Sumera Baloch, and I am working as an Additional Director at the Financial Monitoring Unit. I have been in the regulatory framework for about 20 years now, with 14 years of working in the Financial Monitoring Unit, which is the Financial Intelligence Unit of Pakistan. And I'm basically heading the Analysis Division at the FMU, which is the core division of the organization. It basically deals with incoming different type of reports, which are mainly 2 types: STRs, Suspicious Transactions Report, and Currency Transactions Report, and then converting these reports into financial intelligence, disseminating the same to the law enforcement agencies for their inquiry and investigation. This is like the core work which the FMU is performing on a day-to-day basis, you can say. Along with that, definitely I'm involved in multiple other projects related to my area of work, which is AML CFT, which includes capacity building of different stakeholders, because the organization I work for, the major stakeholders for this organizations are both the private sector and the law enforcement agencies. So we have to take them along in whatever we are doing. So the capacity building of these stakeholders, and then I'm also the core member in the FATF related assignments, and then core member in the National Risk Assessment.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I want to begin by talking about ADB's TSCFP study as a whole. To start with, Catherine, what were the motivations for conducting this study?
The main goal of the program, so Trade and Supply Chain Finance Program, or TSCFP, It's quite a tongue twister. The reason for being for the program is to help close financing gaps. Throughout the years, we've been conducting this study on trying to quantify the existing financing gaps in the market, and it continues to be very big. And one of the consistent barriers to financing based on that study that ADB conducts every other year is that the stringent AML CFT requirements is something that usually results to rejection of financing proposals. So what we did, our team here in ADB, we conducted a roundtable with public and private sectors where we discussed challenges and potential solutions to AML CFT issues that are specific to trade.
AML-CFT is anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing?
That is right. Sometimes it's AML-CTF. It could also be AML-CFD, anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism.
Thank you so much for that. And it's such a fascinating initiative. I'm curious, for you, was there a moment which stood out particularly, maybe during the roundtable or initial discussions?
That roundtable resulted to a lot of work streams, but this is one of the recently completed projects. And one moment that stands out during those discussions and all the following discussions were that we realized that here in ADB, Trade and Supply Chain Finance Program, the specific risk we are exposed to is trade-based money laundering because day in and day out, we are supporting trade transactions from all the 22 countries in Asia and the Pacific. At the same time, we realize that trade-based money laundering is not well understood and is grossly underreported. So it is a big problem that definitely needs solutions. So I think that was the moment where we realized we need to do something about this. If we want to be comfortable in continuing to support trade in our member countries, in all the developing countries in Asia, then we have to make sure that the issue of trade-based money laundering is highlighted. We try to make people more aware of it, and we try to discover innovative solutions and get people together to want to act on it.
And kind of more about how the initiative was rolled out in practice. Could you explain a bit about the GoAML platform for our listeners? How was the TBML pilot on GoAML developed?
The idea was from the Singapore workshop. We wanted to become part of the solution and leverage ADB's strong network with both the public and private sectors. In that roundtable, the banks were representatives from major global banks in Asia and the Pacific. They said that suspicious transaction reports, or STRs, are massively underutilized. And we know for a fact that there is so much trade data that are being collected by banks in their day-to-day transactions when they support trade transactions. That's how we thought of making reports, these STRs, fit for purpose for TBML by adding trade data in existing STR formats. Now, going back on what you asked about GoAML, GoAML is an integrated software that was developed by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, and it's for use by financial intelligence units. It is utilized for the collection, analysis, and dissemination of suspicious transaction reports, and it's used by over 70 countries. So when we thought of this pilot, we thought of it as an easy target to work with countries that use GoAML because we are talking about the same structure for their STR formats. When we sit together and discuss how we want to improve the existing format, we're just talking about the same format, the same database. And so it's just easier. And then also the idea of it being easily replicable by all the other 70 countries that are also using GoAML.
Thank you so much for that. Sumera, stringent anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing requirements, so what Catherine was mentioning about AML, CFT requirements, are a main barrier in accessing trade finance. How did the pilot help promote education, particularly at a grassroots level, and improve banks' TBML controls?
I totally agree with your viewpoint that sometimes stringent regulations do create barriers. Because of the excellent collaboration of the Financial Monitoring Unit with ADB, I have seen an enhanced level of understanding within the reporting entity, specifically if we are talking about banks. Our major reason behind this is that in collaboration with ADB, we held 2 mega-level conferences in Pakistan, in two major cities of Pakistan, which were attended by more than 100 participants from the financial sector. That was the point where actually the banking institutions were sensitized about the importance of TBML related STRs, how important it is to report them, how important it is to further go into inquiry investigation. So those conferences really helped in enhancing the capacity of the financial institutions. And another very important aspect of those conferences were that not only the officials of financial institutions attended the conference, but also the officials of the law enforcement agencies attended it. So it provided a platform for both these sectors to also communicate with each other in the area of TBML. And for this, I'm very thankful to the ADB team because they have been very supportive in overall this project, especially with regards to the conferences which we have held.
Catherine, during the pilot, data was collected about TBML indicators, party identification, and transactions specifically. What factors did you consider when developing methodology?
When we were thinking of the project, it was more of the banks already told us, and we also know because the trade documents that are collected by the banks, we also see them because we also process the trade transactions when the banks ask us to support it. One factor is that the data is readily available with the banks. We're not giving more burden for the bank to excavate whatever data. It is already there. It's a matter of putting it in a format that is easily understandable by the FIU who will receive the reports. It's a matter of labeling it as a TBML SDR so that the FIUs who are usually overburdened with so much reports that they receive from the banks, they could easily identify which ones belong to TBML, and then it's going to go to whoever expert is there in the unit to deal with those SDRs. Another factor we considered is what kind of data analysis will be derived from these enhanced SDRs. So we realized that by adding more trade data, the FIUs, the countries, will be able to come up with a specific risk assessment on their TBML, whatever specific trade-based money laundering is the country faces. Because as we know, it's different. Their trading partners are different. The types of goods and products being traded are different per country. Having these kind of enhanced TBML SDR will allow them to identify which trade routes they need to closely scrutinize, which types of goods are more exposed, and therefore they could put an automatic tag, oh, if it's in this sector for this type of good, then you need to look more closely into it. They could provide also the banks better guidance on how they do their trade transaction monitoring. So those were the things considered. We're not making additional burden to the banks. It's readily available, and it's definitely going to result in improved analysis for the bank, for the FIUs, and hopefully the law enforcement will find them useful. This could lead to useful investigations, and ultimately we're able to prosecute and arrest or disrupt these criminal activities.
Hey, enjoying this podcast? Hit that follow button for more. Done? Let's get back to it.
So, to Sumera's point, it was really important for banks to make full use of the value of their data, which they had already collected. Now let's look a bit closer towards the Pakistan pilot specifically. Sumera, from Catherine's answer, in Pakistan, what do you think was the biggest win from being part of the TBML STR pilot?
I think the biggest win for us was the actual launch of the STR TBML, which was rather a new concept for the financial institutions. But when we rolled out to the pilot group, they were very much appreciative towards it, and they immediately started reporting STRs in that particular format to us. Earlier, STRs were being reported, but the information they were providing related to trade was a little limited. They didn't have specific tabs to capture all the information related to TBML. With the launch of STRT, it provided them the opportunity to provide more detailed information relating to STRs which are related to TBML. So this was, I think, the biggest success, and the results of this success are evident from the numbers of STRs which have increased over the period of time as compared to the previous ones, and also the quality of STRs that has also further improved for us. In this, I must appreciate the efforts of my team members, especially Asad Farman and Munib, who have worked very much on this project to launch actually the STR-TBML.
Just to clarify for listeners, STRT is an STR related directly to TBML. Sumera, what kind of feedback did you receive from Pakistani banks? What did they find helpful, but also were there any areas with which to improve?
When we rolled out the STRT, it was initially for a limited number of banks because it was a pilot project. But the feedback we received from them was overwhelmingly extremely positive. And we started receiving requests from other banks which were not initially part of the pilot that they also wanted to pick up the part of pilot, which shows the success of the project at the overall. And definitely the feedback which we received, they identified that specifically the ease of reporting STRs has it. Now they can very easily plug in all the data information related to trade, whether it is about the pricing, whether it is about the goods and services. They can plug in the information very effectively as compared to the previous STR reporting. Now that we have rolled out the program, the STRT to all the banks, it has resulted in further improving the number of STRs and the quality of STRs.
Has STR reporting led to any improvement in financial intelligence being shared with law enforcement agencies?
Definitely, because when we are receiving the STRT, the components which have been introduced in that, the tabs we say in GoML which have been introduced, they let the reporting entities capture very detailed information about what they are reporting. So, for example, the red flag indicators, they can select multiple indicators and provide further details on what actual typology is being used for a particular trade-related STR, which has resulted in definitely when the quality of STRs has enhanced, the quality of financial intelligence as a result has also enhanced. So this financial intelligence is being disseminated to the law enforcement agencies, and what the feedback we have received is also very positive from the law enforcement agencies, so that the quality has overall improved and the intelligence is more actionable, so they can take and initiate inquiries on the financial intelligence being disseminated to them.
And what further measures has FMU taken to improve STR reporting related to TBML?
Apart from the initial capacity building sessions held in collaboration with ADB, FMU has further taken initiatives such as we have introduced a very detailed guidebook for STRT, STR related to TBML. It provides a step-by-step detail on how this STR has to be captured within the GoML. And we have also introduced a list of red flag indicators for all the reporting entities who want to report STR related to TBML. And further, we are looking forward to more capacity building sessions for the financial institutions.
And what about capacity building in the financial sector? Have there been any initiatives in this regard?
Yes, what we have observed that after the initial launch of the STRT and the conferences we held in collaboration with ADB, the reporting entities, especially the banks, have started doing in-house training sessions for their officials as well. Along with that, the FMU is also very much focused, and we have also conducted numerous other capacity building sessions specifically on trade-related activities with the reporting entities and also for the law enforcement agencies. And one more initiative which we are taking is that we are also going to conduct, we have started actually working on it, a strategic analysis on trade-based money laundering. So once that our strategic analysis is complete, we will definitely be sharing the findings with the financial institutions and just sensitizing them even more about the TBML related aid.
Thank you very much for that. And Catherine, how is this initiative different from other countermeasures or initiatives developed for TBML?
I think what differentiates it from other initiatives, it's very practical. What we're saying is that the banks have the data, and it's a matter of empowering them to be able to tell a better story through an enhanced reporting structure. In summary, you see that through this initiative, we are leveraging the expertise and strength of both the public and private sector. So it's like a multi-sector, multi-country approach. And we made sure that it's not just the banks and the FIUs in the room, but we made sure to also include customs and law enforcement officials, because we don't want to stop at just creating nice reports. We want the reports to actually lead to useful intelligence that will eventually help disrupt these criminal activities. And finally, I would like to say that the whole initiative is focused on 3 key elements. So that's number 1, data, number 2, capacity building, and number 3, collaboration. I think no amount of counter TBML measures will be successful if we don't have those. So we need data to understand the problem better. We need capacity building because we know that the criminals are never resting in terms of new types of exploiting trade so that they could launder money, transfer value across countries. So we need to always train We need to always share international best practices and, of course, collaboration, because trade has this cross-border aspect. So we need the countries to want to talk to each other. And we know that the information on trade are dispersed in various sectors. Like the banks have the financial data, they can inspect trade documents, but not the physical goods. But the customs are the ones dealing with the goods inspection. We need to be able to want to compare notes and want to work together to successfully solve cases and go after this criminal activities. That's it. I'd want to just emphasize those three things: data, capacity building, and collaboration.
Yeah, it sounds like each of those elements by itself is very important, but the three together, the whole initiative wouldn't be possible without it. To close things off, just looking forward a little bit, what are the next steps for ADB's TSCFP, the UNODC, and the pilot group?
So we have this successful story from the 5 countries, which would not be possible if the FIUs didn't cooperate with us. So we are very thankful that we've forged strong partnerships with all these countries. Special mention to Pakistan. They have been a very strong partner and have been like sort of helping us really to share the good story, because we know that more countries should benefit from this. What are we doing now? We saw that this is successful and can easily be replicated in other countries. So we want to encourage a global rollout. And what we're currently doing is that in last month, we presented the pilot results at the UNODC GoAML annual meeting for GoAML users. So there were 50 plus countries that were represented in that meeting. So we told them that, these are the results of the pilot. You can easily replicate it because you are all GoAML users too. At the same time, we are thinking of talking to more AMOS international groups on AMOS CFT, talking to other regional groups, and hopefully we could encourage like a global adoption of the measure. So hopefully more countries will benefit.
And Sumera, kind of opening it up to you as well. I know along with the other 4 countries in this pilot, Pakistan has signed a total of 18 different MOUs, so Memorandums of Understanding, with different financial intelligence units around the world, including in South Africa, Japan, and Indonesia. Do you see more international collaboration for the FMU?
Definitely, because the nature of crimes prevalent these days, as Catherine had already pointed out, they are all mostly transnational. So they don't have any borders, and the flow of funds from one country to another country is becoming easier day by day. So we definitely look forward to signing more MOUs with other countries. So far, we have with the 18, and the flow of information, the exchange of information with all these 18 countries is very positive. They all are very supportive. Definitely, because international collaboration is the need of the day. We need to collaborate with all other FIUs as well. So we look forward, and some of the MOUs are already in pipeline. So we will be signing few more soon.
Thank you so much. That's really great to hear, exciting for the future. To round things up, it looks like as a result of the pilot, the number and quality of SDRs has improved, ease of reporting, detail of reporting, and processes have become more practical. A pilot which is built on data, capacity building, and collaboration. And I, for one, will never look at a shipping container the same again. Thank you both so much for your time and for joining us on Trade Finance Talks.
Thank you very much, Mahika. Thank you, Sumera.
Thank you, Mahika, and thank you, Catherine.
Have a nice day. Bye.